Hello and welcome to Back in My Day, the podcast where my dad tells harrowing stories of near-death experiences and overall mishaps. Please sit back and enjoy.
Did I ever tell you the story, or did I ever tell you about the time that I almost died in a Camaro?
You've told me two stories of you almost dying in a Camaro. You gotta
Okay.
be a little more specific.
All right, so let's go with the first time it happened.
All right.
All right, so it would have been about March time frame, March of about 1996, and just to give you an idea of what was going on in the world, 1996 was the year that the Macarena came out.
Hey, Macarena.
Mariah Carey and Boys to Men, Celine Dion, Shania Twain were all like on the Billboard charts. They were the trending music artists at the time.
All right.
Let's see. I'm trying to think of what else happened.
I think that's enough.
Okay.
Just a generalized idea ought to be all right.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. So, my friend Mike had a 1986 Camaro that, and keep in mind this is 1996 when this is occurring, so the car was only 10 years old at the time. So, we were going to, we had gone to school. We were at band practice. We were band nerds. I played the trombone. Mike played the baritone. Anyway, Mike had this Camaro, fast little car. It was a lot of fun.
I think you told me
a lot of fun to drive.
You told me it was a V6, right?
Yes, so it was a 6-cylinder automatic, white with a red interior. Anyway, fun little car. So we went to band practice, which was in the little town that's about 30 miles from where we live. At the time, Mike would have been about 18-ish years old. I would have been about 15, I believe. Or maybe Mike was 17 and I was 15. I can't remember. I think it was. Anyway. So, he was a couple years older. I was riding with him to band practice. And after band practice was over with, we actually got out early. And we came back. We were coming back. He was going to drop me off at my house and then he was going to go home. So we ended up getting out early. We didn't have a whole lot to do. And so we decided it'd be a good idea to just ride around. So we went out, rode down some back roads, just cruising, listening to the radio, doing nothing special. And we were coming up to there was a dip in the road. So it was all right, as we were coming along the road had it dipped down quite a bit, and it was a little bit of a hill. And so as we approached it, coming a little too fast for the road, but the road was fairly straight, so it wasn't like it was curvy. And the road had a little bit of a curve to it. And so as we approached it, the car, I can't remember exactly if Mike touched the brakes or what. But anyway, we were probably going too fast. And a deer or something. We couldn't really tell what it was, but there was something in the road. And so he kind of mashed on the brakes. And at the time, the car did not have anti-lock brakes. And so the tires locked up, the car started to slide. And anyway, the car, with the way the hill was, it didn't help things either. So anyway, we coming down the road, he hits the brakes. The car starts to slide a little to one side, and then the car started to, because it lost traction, it spun around in the middle of the road, and so now we were going, let's just say we were going south. I don't remember which way the road was, but let's just say we were traveling south. When we get to this area and he loses control, the car spins in the middle of the road. We're looking, at this point, we're looking north, right? So we're looking in the opposite direction of the road. All right, the car continues to spin a little bit until like the back end slides out the road and into the ditch, and it hits the ditch really hard. And anyway, the car comes to a stop, and now the car is pointing east, right? So it's pointing across the road. So the car is sitting half in the road.
Did a 70-degree twist.
Yes, thank you. A 270-degree turn. Car spun. And anyway, we hit the ditch and hit it pretty hard. Like, I mean, it was a significant impact, or at least it felt that way at the time. And so we ended up, getting out of the car. Number one, we didn't get, neither of us got hurt, which was great. But it certainly did scare the crap out of us. So we get out the car, and we're trying to figure out how we're going to, number one, get the car at the ditch. Number two, try to figure out how to cover this all up so that his parents and my parents don't murder us both. So we get out the car, and then we're like, okay, first thing we need to do is get the car at the ditch. So the way this car is or the depth of the ditch, the car was kind of high centered on like the edge of the road. So the rear tires were not, like, they were in the ditch. They weren't getting any traction. The car sitting there, wasn't moving. So we're sitting there, we're pushing, messing with the car, trying to get it out. Realizing that this is not, we're going to have like zero success doing that.
So trying to push a brick wall in the direction. It's
trying to two high school kids, and we're gonna like pick a car up out of a ditch and move it. This is not
exactly the easiest thing to do.
So anyway, we're sitting there. It's dark. It's not the middle of the night, but it's dark. It's like 7-8 o'clock at night. So we are wrecked in a ditch in a sports car, and
at night on a back road.
And a guy comes driving by in a blue Ford pickup truck. The reason I remember it being a blue Ford pickup truck.
Very specific memory there.
Yeah, and I mean, you remember certain things.
Fair enough.
But anyway, we this guy stops. He sees us sideways in the road. He stops. He gets out. He is clearly inebriated.
For those who don't know, or for those who just, never heard that term or phrase before, drunk off his ass.
Well, not completely, but he was not feeling a lot of pain. He wasn't drunk, but he was a little on the tipsy side.
Yeah.
So anyway, he gets out, and he's nice enough to stop and help us.
Which is good, at least.
Yeah, and he gets out, walks over, and he's looking at it, and he's like, "Oh, I got your car stuck." Yes, thank you, Captain Obvious.
No shoot, Sherlock.
And anyway, so we start talking and chit-chatting, and he's like, "Yeah, all right, let me help you." And so he and Mike get on the back end of the car and start to push, and I get in the driver's seat, crank the car up, and I'm trying to like give it some gas to try to move it. And so Mike and I could not move this car. Well, this guy, I don't know if it was because he was intoxicated or if he was just that strong, but he got on the back of that car and he pushed, and that thing finally caught a little bit of traction, and it came up out of the ditch. And so we got the car out the ditch. We thanked the guy, and he was just like, "Yeah, man, we got to get you out of here before the cops get here, and then you're gonna get a ticket." I'm like, "Yeah, thank you. We appreciate your help." So he goes, gets in his truck, which he had stopped in the middle of the road, not on the side or anything like that. He literally stopped in the middle of the road.
Do you ever just casually pull your pickup truck Just stop it in the middle of the road to help out two teenagers.
Yes, he just stopped in the middle, which it's the middle of it's a back road in the middle of, rural Virginia. So it's not
In
like,
the middle of the night, too, no less.
Yeah, not the middle of the night, but it's at night. Anyway, there were no other cars gonna come by. So anyway, he he gets in his truck.
For anyone curious about the breathing, dog's on the bed.
Yes, I'm playing with my dog. So he gets in his truck, cranks it back up, and where he had parked his truck was where, so we had wrecked kind of at the bottom of a hill. He parked just beyond the bottom of the hill, so he was on like the where the hill started to go back up, where the road started to go back up the next hill, and so he was parked on a little bit of an incline. And he got in his truck and cranked it up. And when he took off, everything that was in the back of his truck slid out into the road. And so what happened was he had a bed liner in the back of his truck, and it was like a big rubber mat that sat on top of the bed liner. And so everything that was on that rubber mat slid on the bed liner and slid out the back of the truck into the road. And so it's blocking the road in the direction we need to go so we can get back to my house. And so anyway, Mike and I get out and we go to figure out, oh God, this dude lost all of his stuff. And he lost toolboxes and 2x4s and all sorts of random things out the back of his truck. Well, this is how we knew he was inebriated. There was a cooler and it was full of beer. Like, oh, interesting. So
probably explains why he was slurring his speech.
Yes. And so anyway, when that cooler fell out of the truck, all the beer cans fell out, it fell out on the road, and some of the beer cans had busted open and beer had poured out all over that rubber mat. And so we're sitting there trying to move this stuff, and in the process we didn't know that the cans had busted open. We didn't, because it's middle of the night, we didn't have flashlights. We just, we were trying to do all this by the headlights of the car.
Yeah, I was gonna say all light you had was by the headlights of the car.
And so anyway, we get out and we start moving stuff, and then realize when we pick it up, it's covered in beer. And anyway, Mike and I ended up splashing this dude's beer on us. And so now we're like, we didn't think about it at that very second. And then when we got back in the car, we realized, oh, we can smell it. Oh, great. So now we get to go back to my house.
There's the oh crap moment, in case you're wondering.
Yeah, and so now something that started off as an innocent unintentional wreck trying to avoid a deer or whatever it was in the road turned into, that's what really happened. But what my parents and Mike's parents were going to see was
they got drunk.
A wrecked car, two kids, 17 and 15-year-old, right? Wrecked car, middle of the night, smell like beer, right? Oh, we got this great story of, oh, it wasn't my beer, right? It was this random dude who stopped and helped us in the middle of the night. And so anyway, we went home. I talked to my parents. My parents were super cool about it. They realized that when I told them, I thought for sure I was going to end up in grounded for the rest of my life. But when we started telling them about, the dude helping us, and I said it was a blue Ford truck and described the guy, my dad was like, oh yeah, that's old so-and-so. Yeah. He is strong as an ox, and he is drunk all the time. So he actually, that's really what happened. And so anyway, my parents knew that our story was legit. But that's the story of the time I almost died in a Camaro and a drunk man saved our lives.
All right.
So to follow up, the car, for those who are wondering how bad the car was damaged, so the axle was bent.
Oh.
A little, enough that you couldn't drive it, but you couldn't drive it like normal, but we drove it slow all the way home, and it made this horrible squeaky sound all the way home. It was awful. Luckily, Mike's stereo was loud enough that we could turn up the stereo and you couldn't hear the squeaking.
The solution to every problem on a car
Yes.
is turn up the radio.
And so we ended up, we drove it home. It had surprisingly little damage. It had a like I said, a bent axle. The axle was jammed up. There was some suspension part under it in the rear that needed to be replaced, leaf spring or something.
Oh yeah,
I don't remember.
It was back when those had leaves.
I think it was leaf spring. It might have been a coil spring rear. I don't remember. But anyway, there was some suspension part in the back that needed to be replaced, and there was a dent in the low and behind the rear tire, and I don't remember if it was passenger side or driver side. But anyway, it was on the bottom rear fender quarter panel, like at the very back. And I don't think he ever fixed that dent, but he did fix the suspension and the rear end damage.
That's a given. If
Yeah.
you ever want to drive that thing again, that's a given.
Yeah, so he got that fixed. Mike's parents, I don't know. We didn't. I don't know what his. I don't really know whatever happened between him and his parents. I think they kind of, realized that, hey, my kid's okay, and so I can't be too upset with him. He's not dead. I'm pretty sure they were not happy about that. His car stayed in my parents' driveway for a couple of days until, they brought a wrecker over to pick it up. But anyway, yep, that was the.
I assume his parents came and picked him up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. His parents came.
I was gonna say, how did he get home then?
Yeah, his parents came and picked him up that night. But yeah, so that was the time we almost died in a Camaro. The first time.
Yeah, the first time.
It
Stay
was the
tuned.
first time I almost died in a Camaro.
Stay tuned for part 2.
There you go.